Welcome to the first ever OpenStack Trove Day. We're really excited. I mean, this room. Thanks, yeah. We're really excited. I mean, this room is just really blows me away in terms of the level of interest, the excitement around both OpenStack and Trove. So thank you all for coming. I want to, I'm Ken Rugg. I'm the CEO of Tesora, and we're hosting this event, and we're really honored to be doing that. We've got a really great agenda for you. First, before I get started, I want to thank a lot of the people who really have made this possible. Our sponsors, one, and in particular Marantis, who is specifically our event sponsor for the event, but all the great sponsors who really helped, make this possible for you. Also, all the speakers. I think we've got a great agenda. I'll go through a little bit of that in a second. And also all of you for showing up early morning, middle of summer. I know you probably wish you were all off on vacation somewhere, but hopefully this will be a real worthwhile event for you, and you'll really enjoy it. On the agenda, we've got some really great things going on. We've got things that go from sort of an overview of Trove, so you'll get to understand some of the basics of Trove, where Trove's going, where it's been. We'll be talking. You'll hear about some real-world use cases of people that are actually deploying different database systems into OpenStack, and some real production use cases of Trove in particular. We're going to have some of the other use cases for data in OpenStack, which I think you'll also find interesting between Hadoop and MagnetoDB. We're going to have at the end of the day, we're going to have a presentation by someone who's going to give us a bit of an investor's view of the OpenStack ecosystem, which hopefully you also find pretty interesting to round it out. And then in between some panels as well, where talking about how different databases can exist in the Trove and in the cloud environments, and also how different cloud environments support databases in their usage. So I think that's all going to be really exciting. So again, I'm really excited about it. We as Tesora, in taking the journey, and we've sort of launched on this journey within OpenStack and with Trove fairly recently. Earlier this year, we launched as Tesora. In that time, I think we've really learned a lot. We've learned that, that one, the momentum around OpenStack is just really, it's real. It's not just a hype. When we talk to people about how they're deploying and how they're using OpenStack, we actually did a survey earlier this year and produced an ebook about that around the time of the OpenStack Summit. We found that while OpenStack was still growing and growing quickly, it's now to the point where it's catching up with VMware in the use case. We also saw a huge demand for database as a service. More than half of the people that we surveyed said they actually would like to use database as a service within their enterprise, which I thought was really interesting. But at the same time, the number of people implementing it was only, within the next 2 years, was only about 20%. So, I think there's a big unmet demand for database capabilities in these kind of cloud environments, which I think is, I thought was really great for us. We did a smaller survey just with some of the registrants, some of you folks here in the room. And clearly you were a forward-looking crew, because within this group, of the enterprises we talked to, and what we found was about half of you were already implementing OpenStack, with another 30% that were going to be implementing it within the next 2014, 2015. And then also we found that more than half of the people that we talked to are actually planning to implement Trove, right? And understood, it's a self-selecting group, but I think it's a self-selecting group because maybe you're a little smarter than the average bear. So that's been great. We've also learned, as we've gotten involved with this, one of the things we learned is the adoption of OpenStack and the adoption of Trove. That it's important for us to make it easier for you folks to adopt it and use it, which is one of the reasons why we've invested a lot of our time and energy to build a product around Trove to make it easier to install, guest images, things like that. You'll be hearing more about that. We're going to be actually demoing a version of our Enterprise Edition later in the day, so you see that around some of the replication technologies, so I think that's important. We've also found that having all of these pieces, parts fit together. It's a complex ecosystem, and it's a really valuable ecosystem here that, how these things fit together is important. And so therefore, we're also launching a program for validating and certifying different database technologies on the Trove platform, and then certifying our platform into the various OpenStack distributions like Red Hat, Mirantis, and the other Piston Cloud, the others that are out there today. So you can have confidence that the databases that you're adopting and that you want to adopt are going to work in these environments. So we think that's really important in this area. And also, the other thing we've learned is participating in the community is really key, right? So I mentioned we've got a product, we're rolling that out, we're working on the certifications. But in this time, we really tried to make a sincere effort to be part of the community. And you can see that we've been contributing upstream and doing a lot of work in the community. And at this point, we've been able to make that investment and are now #1 contributor in Trove in the very short time, and both in terms of the commits and in terms of the reviews. So, and we're really really excited to be able to do that, while at the same time knowing that we're participating with some really great co-contributors between Rackspace, HP, eBay, and some of the others that are part of this project. So it's really exciting for us. So with that, I'd like to introduce my first speaker, Mike Werner, who is the Senior Director of Ecosystem and ISVs at Red Hat. And he's going to be talking about the importance of ISVs and the ecosystem and technology partners in general within the OpenStack ecosystem.
Cool. All right. Thanks Ken. Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? As Ken mentioned, vacation time. I actually came back from vacation at 11 p.m. last night. So excited to be here this morning and get the coffee going and get you guys kicked off for the day, which is actually super exciting. I got to tell you, I've been in the ecosystem building business for about 25 years. Next year will be my 25th year, and there's nothing more exciting to me than to see members of the ecosystem start to build their own ecosystems. That tells you that the model is really working. And there's some familiar faces in this room, and it's really great to see the opportunity that we have as a group to continue to push these network effects ahead, especially when it comes to OpenStack. We're extremely bullish on OpenStack, as you'll see throughout today. So I tend to like to think about building an ecosystem in terms of grapes and watermelons. And I tend to also think about, a lot of startups and a lot of companies. It doesn't matter if you're a Fortune 100 company or a platform company or a startup, they tend to think about owning market share. I want to own that market share. I need to go and get 100% of something. And so I always ask, when it comes to thinking about ecosystems, would you rather have 100% of a grape, or would you rather have a certain percentage of a watermelon? And what I mean by that is that when we look at the ecosystem and network effect and the companies that are in this room today, and certainly the ones that are in the ecosystem for Red Hat and others, we think that the model of thinking about watermelons is much better than thinking about grapes. Let's grow this together. Let's get a bigger entity, and we can get percentages of the bigger entity versus trying to own the singular piece that is that grape. OpenStack is one of those opportunities. And certainly, one of the things that we're seeing with Trove and database as a service, or I think you call it DBaaS, is an opportunity to do just that. So it's exciting to see today what we think of as a bunch of disparate projects or services or companies or offerings or solutions or whatever it happens to be start to get filtered into a much more unified support system. And that's what you guys are part of today. I mean, OpenStack is in its early stages, and certainly, we're betting the company in some respects on OpenStack. You've seen what we've invested in over the course of the last 18 months, whether it be in the work that we're doing upstream with the foundation, whether it's the code that we're focusing in on the project side, whether it's the product pieces that we've been developing with our private cloud and our public cloud and our platform offerings. Or even such things as when we're driving some of our services and other offerings there. We had a recent acquisition of a company called eNovance, which has really helped us in the deployment phase. We're really betting a very large bet of Red Hat on OpenStack and making sure that we're participating in ecosystems of our own as well as of others is really, really critical, and it's a really good celebration of the model. Now, when we think of the kind of the ecosystem itself, it can be broken up into companies, it could be broken up into individuals, it could be broken up into organizations, but all of it really is an interdependent scenario. So, when my kids were little, we talked about ecosystems with tadpoles and eggs and frogs. This really is kind of the similar model that we look at in the world in technology. And so we've seen OpenStack go from the egg stage into the tadpole stage, certainly with deployments and some of the figures that Ken was talking about. 30% plan an implementation of OpenStack in 2014, 2015. That's awesome. It's incredible how fast this has gone, and we're really at an inflection point when it comes to open source technologies in the cloud, and we think that this is really going to be kind of the next big thing. 50% are going to implement Trove as part of that. That means an investment in these key foundational technologies and pillars of OpenStack is really starting to take shape. And for us, that's a great, great thing, because not only do we think that there's an opportunity for us, but we know that there's an opportunity for others. But circling some of these organizations, right, we need to make sure that folks like IT professionals that are inside of companies have the capabilities to go and architect and deploy and maintain some of these projects inside their companies. And we at Red Hat are really certainly starting to see a lot of that movement today. It's been extremely exciting to see a lot of our early customer base adopting some of our core technologies and starting to apply them within some either lab or dev and test environments, and even some deployment scenarios, and I think we'll talk about some of those a little bit later on today. Other pieces, such as some of our managed service providers and cloud providers out there, are really looking at OpenStack as a really important option of making sure that they've got a core capability to support that and have the infrastructure and the architecture and supporting some of the customer demand that's going to be coming. And even greater than that is seeing the amount of startups that are out there and having the end of the day kind of wrapped up in an investor's view of not only Trove and Tesora or of OpenStack, but even in the open source model has been really, really amazing. And we're starting to see a great deal of interest in the startup phase around OpenStack, which for us is, again, fantastic. Lastly, making sure that developers have the tools, we call it the picks and shovels. We're at that picks and shovels stage, making sure that the tools are available, that the right set of knowledge and resources, the right set of communities are available, so that there's a sense of not only peer-to-peer sharing, but an opportunity for development that happens inside of organizations. I thought I'd kind of share this slide with you guys just to show you a little bit of an example of our portfolio and how we look at our model. And it's very, very similar to what Tesora is looking at here. So, upstream, thousands and thousands of projects, right? We're not in year 2000 anymore, where it's some guy sitting in his mother's basement hacking away on code. There's some really amazing projects, and OpenStack is certainly one of those, that are coming out of the open source scenario. And it's one of the things that we've built into our model, not only as a business model, but in our development model, that's really been fantastic, of how we kind of manage through the open source ecosystem and transition that into a hardened product that customers can depend upon. And that's my excitement of today, is what Ken talked about there was really the model, is how do we take these really amazing innovations that happen all over the world, and they could still be in somebody's basement, you never know, and how do you translate that into something that's a product, a platform, an offering, and ultimately a business model, and a supported business model that customers can depend upon. So for us, we have a portfolio of products that really that model fully emulates. There's nothing that we do that is not open sourced at our company. And so, we've moved from being kind of a single product company with, Red Hat Enterprise Linux into a portfolio of offerings. And OpenStack is something that we've really kind of been driving over the course of the last 18 months as core to our deliverables. So how do you take those projects and how do you get them into a scenario where customers like State Street Bank or NASDAQ really, can depend upon you as a core partner and a core technology that's enabling their enterprise? First thing is you got to make sure you're participating. So in the case of OpenStack, Red Hat is extremely active in just about every element of the OpenStack project. And that's not just at the foundation level or association level. That's really at the code level. That's people that are working every day to put more code upstream, listen to their peers, make sure that we're participating, help drive direction, help be a peer, and really go out there and make sure that we're driving the opportunity to make sure that these projects are relevant. Second piece is, how do we make sure that we integrate? So we help to take some of those disparate pieces of code and foster them into actual projects. Sometimes that's within our own communities, like Fedora as an example for our community for RHEL. Sometimes that's within a context of a foundation. So the OpenStack Foundation, we are helping to try and shape some of the components that come out of there, and some of the key aspects of the pillars of OpenStack are pieces that we really care about making sure that are enabled. And then we go through and make sure that from a kind of a product perspective, we're looking to go and stabilize some of these projects. And so that's the real kind of enterprise work that we'll do behind the scenes to productize things inside of our company. Making sure that there's a business model, not only for ourselves, making sure that there's an ecosystem that's being built around those, have the ability to commercialize these things. That's really the true model, to make sure that we're engaging in something that we think's got a long lifeline, not only for ourselves, but for obviously our core partners. And then lastly, make sure that we deliver on all of these pieces in an enterprise-grade product. So that piece of delivery is a supportable entity. Sometimes with a really long life cycle, sometimes with a really great core set of ecosystem partners, almost every time with a core set of ecosystem partners. But it's really an important piece that customers have confidence that they're getting into something that is professionally hardened, and things like certification and elements of making sure that there's interoperability and support are really, really key to that. And that's something that we kind of bake into our strategies as we move it forward. So, as I think about that, it's not just about the technology, and we can always talk about open source as the business model, or we can talk about open source as the development model, and you can think about the ponytail guys versus the turtleneck guys, who are doing the technology versus the business. It all has to happen. So technology for technology's sake is not going to do it in this world. An ecosystem really has to have what we consider the three core things. Number one is the technology. So what's the platform? Number two is what's the market opportunity out there? Is there something that we can go and monetize together? Can we get a room like this together with lots of different companies that might have areas of expertise that are either complementary to the technology or might be adversarial, but they need to get involved? That's a true platform. And then how do you build some sort of partner programs out around that? And that's the set of resources, tools, days like today, sharing, information, knowledge, and all the things that will happen beginning today moving forward for Trove and Tesora. This is actually the stage that you guys are at. So those three pieces are kind of the part of the stool, the three legs of the stool that we're really, really keen on making sure are delivered. So what drives the need for ecosystems? I think that there's a few pieces here that I put down, and certainly there's a whole laundry list of others. One of the things that's really important for people is this Internet of Things, right? 50 billion connected devices in the next 5 years. So, the need for cloud, the need for connected applications, the need for data, all these pieces, all infrastructure, all the architecture of how these things work and talk to each other and build value is really, really important as we kind of look at our technology ecosystems moving forward. Second piece is big data. Data is at the center of all of our customers. So, we have to think about how that gets layered into the architecture, how that gets layered into the delivery mechanisms of not only the technology, but also in the business applications that we look to go and support and build. Third thing is kind of more of a hardware scenario, which says, hey, the data center's at the center of a lot of this universe. And so modernization of data centers, we're seeing a massive opportunity around MSP partners, cloud partners. The notion of a hybrid open cloud is certainly a key element that we see a lot of our customers it used to be grappling with, now strategizing. How do I make sure that my data center is engaging with the public cloud? How do I make sure that we have a technology set that is going to be relevant across all of the different components, whether it's on-premise, in our private cloud, or in a public cloud? And how do I make that mobile, and how do I make sure this all talks to each other? That's really what the exciting piece of OpenStack is. Also driving the need for ecosystems is applications. It's an application-centric world. There's new application delivery models that are being created with Docker and different scenarios such as are going to be opportunities inside of OpenStack. And we want to be out at the front of that. I think this whole room wants to be out in the front of that and understand that in these applications, databases need to be a part of that, and they need to be cloud-enabled. That's what's exciting about today, and I think we're at the cusp of really, really starting to drive that. And lastly, there's a zillion industry initiatives out there. Two that are really relevant for my business are NFV in the telco space and OpenStack platform. That's obviously why we're all here today. So we've kind of really taken our ecosystem approach and said, hey, we're going to double down on OpenStack. And over the last 18 months or so, we've really put a full court press on making sure that we're looking at a vibrant ecosystem of all those core players, from services to cloud partners to IHVs and hardware, network cards, cloud service providers, all in kind of one area that we think is going to be an important spot, and that is around OpenStack. And so I wanted to share a little bit of our excitement here by running an early morning video for you guys, because sometimes coffee is just not enough. And this is my requisite little break in the middle of my session here to let you guys get fired up.
Customers willing to embrace new technologies is seeing companies they trust stand up behind them.
Just as Red Hat legitimized Linux for the enterprise, now that's happening right now with OpenStack.
We believe that we can be an accelerant and a launch pad for many, many companies and partners of different types. And this program is designed to do just that.
Excited that Red Hat's taking a leadership position in doing certification across the ecosystem, because no one vendor is going to be able to do this themselves.
OpenStack is building a really robust ecosystem of partners and technology that promise to change the world.
So there's my little commercial. Now, here's the key thing about that, and we truly mean this. If you listen to some of the voices on there, it's really about no one company is going to go do it themselves. And that's really what an ecosystem and a platform is all about. We honestly have that ingrained in our culture and in the whole methodology of how we develop our programs and our products. And I know that in engaging with Tesora, and when they asked, will you guys be a part of this day, we were delighted to be a part of this day, because it emulates the whole model. And we think that a rising tide will raise all ships, and that's really an opportunity here for this. So, just to give you a little bit of a background on what we've seen just from the ecosystem side of momentum around OpenStack, it was a little over a year and a half ago, maybe a little less than a year and a half ago, that we announced our intent to have what we call the Red Hat OpenStack Cloud Infrastructure Partner Network, the longest name in the history of program names. But being an acronym-centric culture, we affectionately call it Roskippin. And we have some Canadian friends that like to call it Ross Chippin too, so it's kind of fun that way too. But you know, it's really the largest commercial OpenStack partner program today in the industry, and you know, we didn't set out to be able to make that claim. It's really been amazing how we've seen companies onboarding into the program. So we have three core elements of what we're driving. Number one is the technical benefits, early access into code, making sure that we're sharing tools, building lab scenarios, you know, creating all the pieces that can technically go and support a company wanting to go and drive you know, integration with our version of OpenStack, which we call the Red Hat Enterprise Linux OpenStack Platform. There's another long one for you, or RHEL OSP. So we promise the next version of any of our programs will have a little bit of shorter acronym if we can. But as Ken mentioned too, a really key element of this is our certification components. So you know, these are companies, we announced it with about 28 early adopter members. These are ISVs, hardware companies, OEMs, and we are over 300 now as of the middle of August. I can tell you for a fact we're over 300 company members strong. And those companies represent literally thousands of systems and solutions and software opportunities that are engaging and interfacing with our platform, that we're doing elements of certification with each of those. So certification is, hey, this stuff works together. Hey, you're following kind of the architectural capabilities that we think customers need to have in order to stand up, deploy, and support these pieces as these components work together. We can't go out to customers with an open source platform if they don't know the stuff is going to work together. And that's part of, I think, the core part of the value proposition for today is how do we get DBaaS working? How do we have Trove as a front end for the ability to go and continue to drive the capabilities of OpenStack? And how do we make sure with things like certification, interoperability, and support, those are going to build that customer confidence? Everyone that we certify in our program, we ensure, we mandate actually, and you know, being an open source company, it's not easy to mandate and even to say those words sometimes, but I spent 20 some odd years at Microsoft, so mandate is actually something that's still part of my lexicon. But we do mandate collaborative support. And the reason for that is because we want to be able to go and turn this disparate set of technologies that are kind of flying around out here in the ether into a real core product and into a platform that others plug into. And the only way to build that customer confidence, and actually the only way to turn that into a go-to-market set of activities and a revenue-generating opportunity, is to ensure that customers know that the stuff works together and that there's somebody to call when and if there's a problem. So certification is not about certification of the developer or the architect. It's not an engineering certificate that you can put on your refrigerator at home. This is really about the two companies working together with your core technology, your core IP, with our platform, and making sure that they work together and publishing those results. So if I showed you before the kind of the core elements of what we think an ecosystem is all about, which is market demand, product and platforms, and a partner program, this is our version at a high level of what our program does. And we try and translate technical benefits into a continuum that companies can go to market with us. You know, we're an open source company, but we're capitalists, right? We want to make money, and we think this is a great model. Open source is a fantastic development model. Open source is a fantastic business model. But if we don't create a pathway for revenue and commercial success, then you're not going to see the ecosystem drive. And so that's what the opportunity is for us, is to make sure that we're taking those technical benefits, translating them into customer confidence, and taking that customer confidence and creating an opportunity for revenue. So, you know, some core attributes of a healthy ecosystem. I've talked a little bit about these. Win-win relationship, okay? You can't start anything unless, you know, if you're going for the grape, we need to all go for the watermelon. Establishing rules, making sure they're agreed upon, whether that's inside of the context of the the Trove ecosystem or more widely out into the OpenStack, making sure people understand kind of where the rules are so that, that we can all kind of play together nicely. As part of that, as few surprises as possible. We've tried to make sure that we're very open with our roadmaps and when we share with our core ecosystem partners. And it's important for us to make sure that we're also driving the core capabilities of our products with our partners. So we don't want to go out and suddenly make a surprise that might deviate in their investment in the ecosystem as well. Information, partners, participants, ecosystem of ecosystem. Let's make sure all those are connected. My favorite one is feedback's not only important, but it's acted upon. If we're a leader and the participants or the customers and the ecosystem are saying, hey, we think the things are moving this way and you guys are doing this, and we don't act upon that, then that's not going to be a great scenario for the long term. And as I mentioned before, technology adoption leads to revenue. We really want to create customer pull together, and that way we're going to make sure that we have a great opportunity to commercialize these pieces. Core to what we're doing is next generation of application development. And for me, I just put together a few key bullet points. I'm getting the wrap-up hook here, but I want to make sure I cover this really quick. We believe open hybrid cloud environments are the next generation architecture. This is really, really important for I think, not only the companies in this room that are building the ecosystems and solutions, but also listening to your customers and understanding that it's not an all or nothing world. Apps need to communicate, and as I talked about that on-premise to private cloud to public cloud scenario, we need to make sure that we're thinking about those things. So as a platform company, we're thinking about that connectedness, and we look to help have partners help to go and drive that. But core of what I just mentioned around the certification is we're trying to deliver a stable platform for OpenStack. So that stable platform needs to transition into these cloud environments, and that stability has to be a set of confidence that we see customers understanding how to architect your solutions, how to support those solutions, how to maintain those solutions. Part of our certification and that stability is to make sure that we have a program that allows that interoperability, but also is flexible enough to understand that things do change very, very quickly. So while things are kind of getting spun up into either projects or much more commercialized opportunities inside of OpenStack, we're trying to be flexible with how we're building our programs so that there's a changing needs of the platform along with the certification pieces. And as you'll hear today, certainly on the panels and some of the customer pieces, that's really exciting when you think about translating this innovation into new markets and new opportunities. Database as a service is something I think that we've seen, and I know what I've seen in my career for 20 some odd years, it's kind of a little bit of a holy grail, right? This is really an interesting spot that we think that that OpenStack is going to go and enable, and I think that the roots of that are going to be in this room today. And to that core point, these enterprise-grade applications need modern services, of which we think DBaaS is actually going to be a critical component of that. So listen, I just wanted to take a few minutes this morning to let you guys know that we're super supportive of Tesora. We're super supportive of Trove. We're super integrated and supportive of OpenStack. We see this as a really great opportunity for the industry. We think that there's a lot of room for major players to have a really core part of the OpenStack initiative. For those of you that haven't been to an OpenStack summit, I really encourage you to go. I've been to the last 5, and I got to tell you, there's a lot of energy. It's getting just crazy out there every time we go. We'll be in Paris in November. Hope to see most of you folks there, and hope to gather with you guys through the day today and have some good conversations about the opportunity. So thank you very much.